Our guest today was able to transition from being a network engineer in India to becoming a solutions architect at AWS here in London. So we're going international here. Some key takeaways I want you to listen out for in this episode are how his curiosity helped guide his journey into the cloud, why he decided to go from being a cloud specialist to becoming more of a generalist, the challenges that comes with managing different stakeholders as a solutions architect, and his best advice for people looking to break into and develop their careers in the cloud. This is a really interesting episode, and I'm excited for you to listen to it and gain a ton of value from it. A quick disclaimer though, there was a little bit of a problem with my microphone. It's a little bit glitchy, so don't let that put you off because the guest audio is perfect, and let's be honest, you're here for the guest anyway, so make sure you stick around and listen to it all the way through because there's so many gems and jewels packed in it. Welcome to Cloud Career Mentor. Let's dive right in. Hello, welcome to the show, Ashutosh. How are you?
Hey Fahmi, I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks. Really excited to walk through your journey today. I think what I want to start with is how you got into network engineering in the first place. Like, what's your story of how you got into that? And then we'll talk through your transition into the cloud.
Sure. So, I did my engineering in India. So, I did my bachelor's in information technology. So, that time when I was studying, I was leaning it towards how the internet works. And, it is 1999, 2000. That time, internet was just starting, right? It was only Google, Yahoo, Hotmail, right? So I was intrigued, like
Yes.
how it is all work, like how you just type something and web page opens, and what goes behind the scene, so you are able to see. And that time it was used to be Yahoo chat and Orkut, in case before Facebook there used to be Orkut and all, right? So I was very interested in just knowing what is the mechanism, and that's why I started just going in the background, like how everything works. So it all started even before networking, just tinkering with the desktop. So I had purchased a desktop computer, and that time it was I think 64, like 2 GB of hard disk and 64 KB of RAM, that laptop, Pentium 2, 3. So, and I used to open it up. I used to see, okay, how it is all connected, where CPU fits, where packet goes, and what is the NIC, how you see the graphics and all. Then I kind of, started levitating towards this all internet sort of thing, how you see the web page. And this is where my interest started. And I was never into coding or programming. I actually did not like it, honestly. I used to student, I like mathematics a lot and science. So this is where it all started. And then I made up my mind, that, okay, I will not even attempt a software engineer interview, right? So I did not even attempt that, right? So my first interview was in networking company only. So this is how it all started.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting to hear because you touched on something that's a commonality between all the people who are successful in technology and the cloud industry. And that's that sense of curiosity. So curious about how things work, trying things out. Like you were talking about opening up your desktop and troubleshooting issues and trying to figure out how web pages open up. And I think that curiosity is what drives a lot of people to even get into the cloud industry and be successful there. And so I think that's a very important theme there. And, looking at your experience, I see you did networking for a couple of years. You said you didn't like programming. Same at the start. I didn't really like programming, but eventually I sort of understood how it worked. But, fast forward to a couple of years, you've been doing networking for a while. And then I see you made a slight detour where you set up your own company. I'd love to know what the company did and what you learned from it before you then transitioned into the cloud.
Okay, so when I started my networking journey, so it was very old days, and MPLS was new. In case just to I don't want to go too technical into networking, but MPLS is basically a protocol which runs within a service provider network to connect various customers, if you will, right? So that time it was new.
Yes.
So we were doing that wireless networking, IP networking, and all the, backhaul of connecting with telco and fiber and this and that, right? And then I had a kind of, see, every network engineer has some target to achieve, right? some place to be, that okay, this is the pinnacle of my career. That that time used to be at the top. They had close to 80% market share in the networking and telecom industry that time, right? So that was one of the dreams, right? That okay, I want to join Cisco Systems one day. So yes, I prepared for that. I joined, two companies before that, and learned few things here and there, and then joined Cisco Systems. So it was one of the, I would say, tick boxes, if you will, that you want to purchase that sort of car, you want to purchase a house, and you want to do this and that. That was my one of the very big tick boxes. So that is,
Yeah, that's the Cisco is like the holy grail of networking
yeah,
companies. So yeah,
that
that's a
time
big
it was
tick.
right. So yes, I was there for 4 years. So out of that, 2 years I was part of Advanced Services Group in Cisco Systems India in Bangalore. Then for some family reasons, I had to move to UK. So I took transfer to
Mm,
UK. So I joined Cisco Systems UK in Advanced Services. So I did my job here with some of the customers here. And then after that, it was my, I thought, okay, let's do something different, because now see, after a while, I don't know, it happens to me at least, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing. After a while, you think that okay, actually it is not the end, this is not the destination, maybe you need to go, because you set small targets. Once you achieve them, you like to set another target and do something else, right? So this is what I thought, okay, I'll be doing. So here, there is a private contracting sort of, in UK there is a culture of contracting, right, wherein you work for a couple of companies, and you take the projects, and you deliver that project. The only downside is that there is no job safety in a way, right? So you are always on your toes, but you learn a lot, right? You learn people skill, you learn management, you learn technical, right? Because
mm,
being the contractor for a project, you are supposed to deliver that, right? With
yes,
permanent job, like I was with Cisco System, it was a safe job, like government job, that oh, you are safe, and you are getting of the day, you are
yes,
getting salary, you are getting leaves and this and that, right? But I thought, okay, let's venture out, right? So I tried doing some contracting, and in the background I thought, okay, maybe I can do something else also, right? So I started consulting few customers in their networking journey, how to optimize their data centers, how to set up their corporate wireless network, how to set up their connectivity between maybe, if they are in different countries or different locations. So those sort of, small level consulting work, you can say. And then, as the circle grows in this, and, networking community, as the name says, it is networking. It includes people networking also, right? Your circle grows, then you get more project. And then I started something with digital marketing as well. Back in India, my brother has software firm. So, we used to, like, I used to be the on-site guy, he used to be the offshore, and we have a team in there. So, I just dabbled around. I would not say like I was too successful in that, but at least, I thought, okay, maybe. So I did that for around 8 years. And yes, I learned a lot and made some friends, some good friends. And then, I
y-
decided that, okay, and now is the time to, just hang up my boots and
yes. I think that's another important point because, I'm the same as well. As I advanced in my career, I did some contracting, some consulting. And I think what I like to highlight in these sort of interviews is that the road to the cloud is never really linear. Like, I think it's only in recent times that you could just go from like nothing to a cloud engineer. Like traditionally, you'd have to do like a different job, you play around with different technologies, and, eventually you find your way into the cloud. And so, yeah, I think that that's very normal. I think it's actually healthy to try these different things and experiment a little bit. So now we've come to the bit where everyone's been waiting for. So you've been doing networking for a couple of years, then you started your own company to help with data centers, and even a bit of digital marketing. What was the thing or the process or the thought that made you decide, oh, actually, I've been seeing this cloud stuff popping about. I want to actively get involved in
yeah,
it.
when I was doing this consulting work for a few of the customers, that time they all started a cloud journey, because it became kind of something like, when big data came, everybody wanted to do something big data related, but nobody really knew what is big data, right? We need big data, right? So therefore, like we need machine learning, right? So this is
Yes. Or Kubernetes.
yeah,
Yeah.
containers, right? So what happened? My customer, they started the cloud journey, right? And I was also hearing from from my friends who were working with different firms. Okay, they started the cloud journey. So I thought, okay, see, again, it's the same thing. When you do something for a while, then you say, okay, what next? Because see, honestly speaking, 5-10 years of your career, you just try to find your footing, right? You are make some money,
Mm.
you are trying to be established because you have to feed your family and all. After that time, it's not about money, right? It's about, you need to do something which is fulfilling, you feel good about doing something. And if that emotion dies, then I think there is a problem, right? So it was always that, okay, do something which is different and which gives you a new target and learn something, right? So I thought, okay, just start researching about it. And this is, I have not seen many people who came from the networking background into the solution architect, because see, you need to have enterprise architecture experience. And
Yes.
as my boss Andy Jesse says that there is no compression mechanism to experience only, right? You cannot just read few books and you know how to design an enterprise architecture, right? Piece with me, because I always was into designing the data center, and the networking and security always. Now, what you run on top of it, it was none of my business. What database you are running, what you are
Yeah.
running, and what application you are running. My job was to make sure computer A talks to computer B, right? Then I
Mm.
thought, okay, maybe that is the ceiling I have hit, right? So I need to do something else, right? Then I started researching, and then I thought, okay, where to go from here, right? So I found, okay, these are three companies: Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. And who has the biggest share? Amazon has the biggest share. Okay, let's target that. If not, then at least I will land into Google or Microsoft somewhere, right? So this is where it all started. I started studying little bit about solution architecture associate exam. I passed that exam, and then yes, then gave interview and luckily got selected. Yeah,
Yes.
so
And actually, I think that's a good place to pause because, like, you just dropped a lot of gems in what you've just said. And I want to make sure, like, our listeners get that. The first thing I heard you talk about was, you've been in your career for a couple of years, but you felt like you'd hit like a ceiling or it wasn't fulfilling enough because you've checked that box. You worked at Cisco, all the things you thought you wanted to do, you've done, and you're looking at your next challenge. And that just reminded me of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where, at the end of the pyramid, you just want food and shelter, basic, human necessities. And as you climb up, you get to a stage of self-actualization where you want to be challenged. You want to improve your skills. And I think that's what a lot of people who want to get into the cloud industry face, because they, maybe they're at the top of their field in IT help desk or in sales or in marketing or whatever industry they're in, and they want a new challenge. And so, the cloud or technology is a good place for that. And another thing you mentioned that I really want to highlight on is, when you mentioned that not a lot of networking people become solution architect because, you need design experience. And this is so, so important because I talk to a lot of cloud beginners and, I ask them, okay, what role are you applying for? And the first role they say is solution architect. And I kind of have to tell them that, look, a solutions architect role is really senior because you're designing infrastructure and your designs could literally make or cost a company thousands or even millions of dollars. And you really need to know what you're doing when you're making these design decisions. So always encourage them to go for maybe a lower level cloud role because they're beginners. So maybe cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, IT help desk, anything except solutions architect, because that just takes time and, like you say, experience to build up to that level. So those are just some of the things I wanted to highlight for my listeners because I thought those were really, really, really valid points. So to continue that story, you've narrowed down your list of options to Amazon, Google, and AWS. You did your research, realized AWS was the biggest, you applied, you got some interviews, and you got the job, which is a really big achievement. But also that also speaks to the wealth of experience you were bringing to the table as well. So I think that's a good place to pick the conversation up. So you get the job. What I'd like to know is what your roles and responsibilities were at the start, and then how that evolved over time as you became more senior.
Okay. So actually, before answering that question, I want to take a step back. So, what happened before joining AWS, I actually see there is something like called aspiration, like you want to be there, you want to do that. And second is the courage, right? I did not have courage to apply to Amazon, honestly speaking. I said, okay, why to apply, right? Why to make fool of myself, because I'm not right. And there is a very crucial point I want to highlight. You need to have friends who believe in you. Very, because I did not apply, honestly speaking, because I thought there's no point in applying, right? Because where is Amazon, right? And I have no experience, and Amazon is a pinnacle at the cloud, right? So they are sitting at the pinnacle. I won't be able to get into it. But one of my friends, he said, I know you can do it, right? You need to apply, because sometimes is the same analogy, like you never see your kid has grown, because you are always every day you see your kid, right? You see your kid was always whatever, whatever height or what. But when you go to your grandparents house, they go, oh, you have grown up, right? Right, they realize, right? Because they are little far and they can see the bigger picture, right? And that's why your friends
Yes.
are needed. When they can see the bigger picture, they can see good in you, where what you bring to the table. And that is what happened. So I will not give the entire credit to me that I got selected. Yes, interview and everything, that was what I did, but you need to at least apply for the job, right? That's what my friend did.
There's the famous Michael Jordan quotes that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, you have to take some shots. Even if you miss some, you'll make some. And again, that's another important point, because one thing I like to encourage people is sometimes you see like a job description and they're like, oh, you need Kubernetes, you need Python, you need Terraform, you need all these things. And it's like an entry level role or whatever. And I try to tell them like, look, if you have even 60% of those skills, just apply. Like it only takes a small portion of your time, and you don't know how skilled you are because you're not seeing yourself in relation to the competition. Because yeah, there might be 100 people applying for that role, but like your skills might be exactly what the employer is looking for. So yeah, if you have even some of those skills, just apply and, let them reject you. Don't reject yourself beforehand. So that's a really valid point. And like also highlighted, get people around you who can encourage you, who see your progress, and who can help you progress really. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
That yes. So regarding the profile, I want to highlight one more thing, because see, I've seen it, and this is all, by the way, experience, right? This is how you learn things, right? So what happened, like there, the profile which my friend thought would be interesting, it was a specialist solution architect for edge networking, right? So it was it was a solution architect, but here in AWS, we have a category of solution architects. So we have generalistic solution architect who have breadth of knowledge. In at like we call it like level 100 is the beginner, level 200 is little advanced, 300 is more advanced, 400 is expert. So level 200 knowledge across most of the AWS services, and the breadth in at least one, right? So that is a generalistic. And then there is a specialist solution architect who have in-depth understanding of one domain. So he thought that, okay, since you are doing networking for many years, maybe you will fit in that edge. So edge is basically networking edge, the perimeter, the content delivery network and all, right? So when I saw the profile, and this is the real, I'm not making it up, only 2 lines matched, only 2 lines. Right. And rest all was, see, the job profile, they try to fit in everything actually. So take them with a grain of salt, actually spoon of salt, because it doesn't really matter, honestly, right? If you think you can add value, just go ahead and apply. So just to second your point, right? There is nothing like a perfect candidate or a perfect job. You just shot, right? And that's what I did. And it went well. If I had just did too much analysis, and as they say, like too much analysis is a paralysis. Don't do calculations, right? Just see if it looks good. Just go ahead. Because end of the day, you have nothing to lose, right? So yeah, so that is what happened. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really great point. So yeah, like to continue the story, yeah, I'm curious to know what your roles and responsibilities were at the start and how they evolved over
Yeah, I'm sorry,
time.
I forgot to answer that question. Yeah. So
No,
I,
it's all
I
right.
joined as a specialist SA for Edge, right? And that time I thought, okay, so Edge networking was very limited in AWS that time. It is 2019, I joined, right? So we had CloudFront and little, few edge services in there. So I said, okay, maybe put me into networking because this is where my expertise lies, right? So I became the specialist SA for networking, right? And AWS has couple of networking services around, 15-ish core networking services. So I started doing that. I was a solution architect, but still doing networking. Majority part, so my 80% of the responsibility was helping our Europe customer with their networking queries, connectivity, and this and that, right? Like around 8 to 9 months passed, and I started thinking that I'm still doing networking, right? I started with networking, I came to cloud company, but I still doing networking. So it is like if you learn to ride a bike, if you don't ride a bike for 10 years, you never forget. So networking is blood, right? I'll
Yes.
never forget that because that's what I did for 15, 16 years, like day in, day out. Right. So I'm not going to forget it even when I'm not doing it for a couple of years. So I thought, okay, maybe let's challenge myself. And that is well beyond my comfort zone to get into, that application side of things, database, analytics, all those side of things. So I thought, okay, honestly, I do not have that much willpower that I take a time and study something where there is no target attached, right? That okay, just take some time, study something and all right. So I thought, okay, there has to be a target, there has to be a deadline, then only it will work with me. See, it may be different for different people, right? But with me, that was the case. So then I shifted from specialist essay to a journalistic essay, and many just said, okay, who does that, right? So it is kind of you are people come from journalistic to specialist, right? You are going from specialist to
Yeah.
journalistic essay, right? So this is what I transitioned to, and then I started encountering various projects, right? So one is dealing with a government agency on some PCI DSS compliance, designing a financial services solution, working with energy customer, designing the IoT solution, and then a database solution, and everything. And I'm still part of the team in networking team in EMEA. So I still support customers. So I'm still part of, we call it a TFC, technical field community. So I'm still part of networking TFC, and I still support all the customers in EMEA whenever I'm available for networking. But now I have at least I'm gaining the breadth of experience. So whenever a new project comes,
Mm.
suppose I don't know about that. Suppose a detailed analytics workload, right? There is streaming data coming of millions of record per second, how to store, where to send it to, where to, do the dashboarding and all, right? Then you go and study that. Now you have a target, then you do a targeted study. Otherwise, just opening YouTube or Udemy videos and just left and right. I don't
Mm.
think it makes any difference because you'll forget after a week if you don't practice. So this is
Yes.
where I transition to a proper solution architect, if you will.
And to sort of touch on that as well, as part of Clark Career Mentor, I get approached by a lot of people, especially people who work in IT industry. Maybe they've been doing networking for a while or security for a while. And their natural instinct is, okay, I want to transition into the cloud. Can I become like a cloud networking person or cloud security person? And what I generally advise them is to go general first, because I think cloud services like AWS, they're very interconnected, and a lot of organizations, they're not like, AWS is massive, but a lot of employers, they don't have that need for like a specific networking person or specific, security person. They want someone who can do most things really well. And what I find is like, if you understand how the cloud pieces fit together, like the compute interacts with networking, how that interacts with security, not only does it open up a lot more opportunity for you. But then later on, you might then decide, oh, actually, I used to be a networking person, but now I like security, or now I like solutions architect, or now I like this other thing. And it just opens the world a lot more, challenges you a lot more. And then you can also still decide, okay, no, I still like networking. Then you can then specialize in cloud networking. But I find understanding, the full picture of the cloud is very beneficial.
That really helps. And just to answer your original question, like, what was the initial responsibility and what it became. So yeah, so as the specialist solution architect, you are responsible to dedicate most of your time towards your specialty, right? Just hone your skill in that particular specialist domain. So we call it diving deep into that area in depth. Like, you're supposed to know anything and everything of AWS networking, right? It hardly happens because, it is fast changing environment.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
huge.
10 new services or 10 new features are coming. But yeah, most of the architecture fit in 80% of the services, right? Rest 20% you go and study and talk to, like, if something changed. So my responsibility was to just create the workshop, deliver workshop to the customer in terms of networking, right? We call something like immersion days. Immersion days, if you know, are workshops only, right? So they are purpose-built workshop for a specific topic, game days and all, and just helping customers with networking only, right? And then blog. So that was a big piece. Like, if you find something interesting, maybe it may help other customers, right? So just write some blog, write a little demo about something, and just, if you find some issues with the public documentation, go and correct that public documentation. So do something which is useful to the customer, right? If you learn something, if you encountered a problem, always remember, it cannot be a problem if only you are encountering. Maybe other people are. Instead of they investing the same time, you just put it in the public domain. So this is how. Then I transitioned to the journalistic. Then the responsibilities were completely different, because now I became from a totally technical person to kind of sales and technical person, because the stakeholder management is a big thing, right? Because this is another crucial point I want to make, because coming from engineering mindset, engineers just see world in plain black and white, right? Black is white, there's no gray area. But when it comes to business, right, sales, there is a lot of gray area, right? And business always drives the technical strategies, never the other way around. It's like, okay, this is the best technical architecture, let's implement. Is it making business sense or not? No, we are not going to implement. So I thought, okay, we need to learn business side of things, because that language is completely different than your technical language, right? So I started interacting with my customers' executive. And when executive talk, trust me, they simply don't care what service you are using, what is connected to where, and how it will work. Because technology works however it works, right? Either it will work the same way, right? But does it make business sense? Does it fit in overall organizational strategy or not? This is what I learned, right? Because I always used to challenge, okay, just go ahead and just develop it. Okay, let's implement it. Let's architect it. They said, okay, that will work. Let's discuss the business strategy. Let's come back to the same point, right? So that is what as a solution architect, that is what you need to do. So most of the time you need to do the stakeholder management, right? You need to align the technical expectation with the business outcome, so that it is aligned with their executives, whatever their agenda is, right? So that is another learning which I'm still learning that, right? So that is today
Yes.
part of my job, just.
I mean, that is amazing because, a lot of the people who listen to the podcast are either people who are looking to get into the cloud industry or people who already have jobs as like cloud engineers or DevOps engineers who want to become solutions architect. And one of the common things I say to them is that you need to work on your communication skills. I think there's so much content around being technical, like, doing labs and, doing projects and all that's great. But really, the people who advance the most are those who can like communicate. They understand business language and business needs and business restrictions. Because like you say, a lot of the time, the best solution isn't necessarily like, you're using serverless everywhere. It's the cheapest, most redundant. No, the best solution is what works for that business use case at that time. Sometimes that's Lambda and serverless. sometimes that's just an EC2 instance. Like, so depending on what the business needs and what the business restrictions are, and also being able to communicate that with all the stakeholders involved and get everyone on the same page and aligned, that's a big part of being a solution architect. So yeah, that has its joys and its challenges as well. And that brings me to my next question, actually. What would you say is a challenge about being a senior solutions architect, just being a solutions architect? And then the next question would be like, what's a positive of being a solutions architect? So let's start with the challenge. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges you found being a solutions architect?
See, when you become, at least in AWS, right? Because I was a solution architect in other places as well, version of solution, because this is just a title, right? But in AWS, it's a little different, right? Because you are expected to own, if you are aligned with a customer, you are expected to own the executive relationship with your customer. If you are aligned with a partner, so partners like, you have PwC, IBM, the service company, Infosys, TCS, Deloitte, Wipro, right? If you are aligned with partner, then you are supposed to own the executive relationship with your partner, right? That is the main expectation, right? So now the challenge would be to meet that expectation, because see, AWS has their own agenda. Partners have their own agenda. You need to work as a conduit to just make sure that we are on the same page, we align on some agenda item and work towards a common goal, right? Which is beneficial to the end customer. And this is the biggest challenge. Sometimes, resolution of conflict becomes the biggest challenge, because there is sometimes the outcome is important, but the opinions are subjective, right? To make sure that we are aligned and we are on the same page. And sometimes we have a leadership principle, disagree and commit. You don't really agree with whatever is happening and what other person is saying, but you think, okay, it may be, it is beneficial to the customer or the partner. Just go ahead and do that, right? We'll course. So that is something. And see, none of it is technical. Honestly, see, don't take me wrong. See, I think technical engineering and architecting, it is overrated, honestly speaking. Technology works however it works, right? And I think it is easier to learn technology. Like you sit for 6 months, you read couple of videos, and you just go through a couple of workshops. You will learn. You will have a decent understanding of the technology, whatever technology you want to go in, right? But this thing, as you said, the communication skill, this talking to executives in their language, right? That becomes the most challenging part, especially for the technical people, right? Be a graduate, that is what you learn, right? But if you are an engineering graduate, you don't learn to talk nice, you learn to talk great, right? And this does not fit well with executives, right? That is what
Yeah.
you need to learn, and over time you learn, as long as you are willing to course
Yes.
correct and be friendly, because everybody wants to just do business, right? So
Yes, so I agree. And yeah, it's something I've had to learn. It's something everyone in the cloud industry learns at some point if they want to proceed. So now thanks for sharing that. What would you say is a positive of being a solutions architect? What do you enjoy about it?
see, the most here, at least in AWS, because this is where I spent most of my solution architect time. So here we are categorized as the individual contributors. I see, right? So as such, there is no project, there's no problem. You are empowered to find the white space, find the problem, and go ahead and solve the problem. If you see a project needs to be incubated, a program needs to be incubated, go ahead, write the document about the program. You will get the buy-in from AWS executive. Go ahead and execute that, right? It may fail, there's no problem, right? But you are always encouraged to try something which you think that is beneficial to your customer, right? And this sometimes, sometimes people take it for granted, because some of the companies I work with and some of my friends, they are very aligned to just, whatever work they are supposed to do. You just have a very narrow path and you have to do that, right? There's no scope to think left and right, because of, it's not like, because it's not aligned with their business strategy. Here, that is the biggest positive point, I would say. So I've run couple of programs, couple of successful programs, couple of programs did not work out, so be it, right? But If you think, if you have conviction, you have right data points, you go ahead and run that program. I think that is the biggest positive thing here, and at least in AWS.
No, that's amazing. That autonomy and the idea of, trying different things and seeing what works. So this is the last question I have, because, you shared a lot of valuable insights on your journey, on how people who want to get into the cloud can be successful. What advice would you have for someone looking to get the first cloud role? Like, well, it could be, maybe not say AWS, let's say they just want to like get the first cloud role. What advice would you give them?
See, first of all, just don't worry about the background. That is because people say, okay, I did this thing throughout my life. Maybe just, randomly, maybe I was a truck driver, for example, randomly, right? Man, I don't know about IT, right? But I studied in my A level, A level. Most of the people do at least A level, right? So I have generic understanding of things, but I'm not from that, right? So don't restrict yourself, because this is the psychological pressure from within, right? You discount yourself, right? See, let others fail you. That is perfectly. Don't fail yourself, right? That is the most crucial part. Second part, when you think, okay, you want to go to a technical company or a cloud company, right? Just start from somewhere. There is one more thing I learned over my course. So when I was doing my study, my engineering, there did not used to be any internet or anything. We used to buy books, go to library, read actual books, right? And that was the source of knowledge, right? And it used to cost money.